Sleep, the Technical Director of ACE Communications, and today I'm going to teach you how to use the DX485U CV ANZ programmer, as a lot of you seem to be battling to be able to read and write the radio. If you start the program will come up and you should be running version 1.02.48. That's the correct one. When you connect the radio to the programming cable and power it on, it will automatically bring up the window showing that the radio is actually connected to it. So once the radio goes in, I've turned it on, I've powered it up, you get a read and write screen. Okay, once you're into that read and write screen, read the configuration from the radio. Once the configuration is read from the radio, you will notice that your connected devices screen, okay, changes. Let's just that finish uploading. Okay, you will see that my connected devices screen has gone absolutely blank. In other words, it looks like there's no radio connected to this. Close that. Okay, you'll also get a pop-up. Every time you get this pop-up, you can either show it, don't show again, or you can just leave it and let it pop up. You can watch further information by clicking on the demonstrated videos. It won't be a video from me, it'll be a video from Entel themselves. What I suggest you do is disconnect the radio at this point in time. And your radio that has been read will be under the general information screen. If you double click that general information screen, you will actually get the radio coming up. Okay, that is now the radio that you have read. You can check its serial number, you can check its ESN number, and you can actually change. This is where you will be changing your radio IDs if and when you need to change a radio ID. I've called this one 4001 and I've given it a name as Training Room Video or Training Room 15. That is for its automatic PDTs when it goes through into the digital world. If you're going to do the emergency settings, your send acknowledge on emergency, or your mount down sensor beep, or your encryption settings are set up here. Okay. On the right hand side of the screen, you've got your general settings. You've got a read and protect password. If you want to read and protect your code plug, this is where you're going to put your password in. Your next zone is your boot up zone. This is the last boot up zone. Do you want it to boot up on the last zone and preset used, or you can designate which channel you want this radio to boot up on every single time. Okay, so you can actually designate that. For now, let's leave that on the boot up on last zone and preset used. You can play with that in your own time. The radio language is English. Don't change that. Internal microphone attenuation is 12 dBs. Internal microwave equalization for this one is currently low. That microphone equalization makes a difference when you're in your digital transmissions, and you can play with that setting as well. I prefer the low to the high. External microphone gain, if you're connecting a RSM to the radio, that's where that is set. And your minimum volume sets for the radio can be adjusted as well, so you can force this radio into a minimum volume if that's what you require. Your maximum volume is currently set at 31. You can change that if you find that the radio is too loud. I find these radios volume is wonderful. Analog mode power saving is standard, repeater mode power saving is enhanced, and your digital mode power saving is enhanced. These are factory defaults. Your torque per mid-tone is enabled. Now if you enable this, it's either on or it's off. You cannot turn it on and off just for analog or digital at this point in time. I will attempt to get that amended because I prefer my torque per mid-tones not to be on for analog, but I do want them on for when I'm using digital channels. So we will try and get that amended to give us additional options. For now, I'm going to leave mine on because I'm going to have digital channels in here and I want that torque per mid-tone on. Screen and backlight savings. This is just for the OLED screen on the back of the radio. Okay, those are your general setting screens. If you go to your channel preset data, this is where you're going to load channels into the radio for use. Okay, you will see here this is also where you have your zones. Okay, now folks, this is being marketed as a CB radio, so you cannot delete or take the CB zone out. It is there permanently. This is a CB radio. Okay, all the CB channels that are in here you cannot remove or take out. They are there permanently. Okay, once again, I'm going to reiterate, this is being marketed as a UHF CB radio, so they need to have the UHF CB channels in them. You cannot remove them and you cannot hide the zone. The zone is there. Okay, once again, if you want to market this radio to somebody and they don't need the CB zone, in your general information, make your boot up channel a channel that's got nothing to do with the CBs. Alright, and this radio will automatically boot into the zone that you want it in. This is also where you're going to be put in your channel pool. So if I go into my channel pool, this is where you're going to add analog or digital channels. Once you've put a channel into the channel pool, it cannot be deleted at this point in time. We are working on that so that we can delete channels. However, if you've put a channel into the channel pool, use it. So it doesn't matter whether you've put it in correctly or incorrectly, you can make use of the channel. Once you've put a channel into the channel pool, now I've put quite a few channels into the channel pool and I'll show you how to add those. So I've put test channels into my channel pool. So after my last CB channel, which is a CB channel ATS, these are the channels I have added. Okay, now to add a channel, you can add a digital channel by clicking add a digital channel. You can call that channel whatever you want it. Okay, you can put your frequency in from 450 megs right up to 520 megs. Okay, you will need to select a color code. The color code will automatically go across into your transmitter as well, so you cannot have an analog or a receive color code and a different transmit color code. You will select your time slot. Are you on time slot 1 or time slot 2? Okay, because I have got a different receive frequency to my transmit frequency, obviously my TDMA direct mode is grayed out and I cannot get to it. This is a repeater frequency I've put in here. If I made that 450 megs as well, obviously now I can get to my TDMA direct mode settings. Now you have got 3 settings in your TDMA direct modes. Okay, those 3 settings correspond to what the Motorola settings are in your dynamic direct mode. And your dynamic direct mode are none, eligible, and leader. These are the same settings. Okay, I will send out a email with a spreadsheet showing you which SDI level is which setting for your TDMA direct modes, so that you guys don't get it wrong and you don't have to try and remember it. Okay, TX power is either high or low. You can allow the TX power to change. In other words, if you allow them to be able to change it, you can program a button on the radio to allow them to change the TX power, or you can lock it. Your admit criteria is either channel free or color code free or always. Your choice. TX timeout timers. In later versions, this is going to be factory defaulted to 60 and 0. Currently it's at 90 and 5. I suggest you change them to 60 and 0. Once again, that is a personal preference. You can leave it to wherever you want it. That channel is now in my channel pool. I cannot delete that channel, it's there. If I need to reuse that channel, I can reuse that channel without adding another one. If I wanted to add an analog channel, same thing. I add the analog channel and I can now call my analog whatever I want to call it. Okay, and once again I can put in frequencies from 450 right through to the 520 meg band. Okay, to set the PL tone or the CTCSS tone, click on the little tuning fork. The little tuning fork will bring up a window, and that window will either be CTCSS tones or DCS tones, and you can select whichever one you want. Okay, now this is also across the board for both. However, in analog you can change between between transmit and receive. So I can make my transmit and receive tones different. I think. Yes, I can. Once again, I have got TX powers high and low. And once again, it allows you to give them the functionality to allow your user to change that. Now, you will notice that you can't change the channel bandwidth at this point in time. I have requested that this be allowed so that we can select 12.5 and 25 kilohertz. At the moment we can't. Squelch normal is normal or tight. If you go to tight, okay, you will tighten your squelch, and obviously it will not be opening at -119, it'll open at about -116. At mid criterias, once again, this is where you're going to set your busy channel lockout. It's either always or channel free or subtone matched or subtone not matched. Once again, timers are 90 and 5. I will change those to 60 and 0. I'm going to reiterate here, we are going to ask for that to be the factory default at 60 and 0. CTCS is squelch call elimination. This is your tail detection. If you don't want the tail, okay, you can switch that tail off. So sometimes when you are finished talking, you don't want to hear the end of the tail, it will turn it off. Okay. Right. We've added channels into our channel pool. So if you close your channel pool down, you can now go into your zone pool. In your zone pool, this is where you can create new zones, or you can take channels from your channel pool and put them into the zone that you want to use it into. Okay, so if I go into my test channels, you'll see I've got a few tests in the channels. In fact, why don't we just add a zone? So let's add a zone, and we will call this one the demo zone, because that's what we're doing. We're demonstrating how to actually do this radio and how to program this radio. So you will see now in my new demo zone, I have got a CB channel in there. I cannot remove that channel. It's grayed out. However, if I now add the 2 new channels I've made into that zone, so I add that channel into the zone and I add the new analog test channel into the zone, it will now allow me to remove that CB zone or that CB channel. So this new zone that I've got has only got those 2 channels in it. Okay. Now you'll notice that we have a digital channel in here. If I have a digital channel is not going to work without a contact. We have to have a contact. There will always be a contact in the contact zone. Okay. Once again, it won't allow this to be empty, but it won't allow me to remove that contact until, once again, I put another torque group in here. Okay, so if I put in another torque group in here, it will allow me to remove a torque group. For now, let's just leave that torque group in there. So it's torque group 1 and its ident is going to be 100. You also have received group lists. It will not allow me to remove that received group list. That received group list is what it is. Now your received group lists, you can have different received group lists in here as well, because you can allocate the received group lists to those channels. Okay, this is where if you want the system to be able to monitor more than one torque group. So if your guys are monitoring on torque group 1 and they are communicating on torque group 1, but they have to be listening to communications happening on torque group 2, this is where you're going to give them access to that torque group. Alright, that's for a later session, and I'll teach you how to do that. If your radio is going to need emergency, you will have an emergency pool and you would have set up your emergencies. At this point in time, we haven't set up an emergency, so we won't worry about it for now. Let's go back into normal programming. So our demo zone has got a digital channel in it and it's got an analog channel in it. We have got a contact in our demo zone, so we can allocate that to the digital channel, and we have a received group list in our contact zone, in our demo zone. Now you will notice that I have got 4 zones available to pick from. Okay, every single zone is enabled with a tick box. If it is not enabled with a tick box, that zone is not available on the radio and you will not be able to select it. So let's go to our zone active. Okay, this is our demo zone. Alright, once again you will see it's already got a channel in it. This is where you can change what you are calling the preset alias to be displayed on the screen. If I wanted to change that, I would call it Digital Demo 1 because that's what I've called the channel, and that's what I want to know that I'm using. So I'm going to call it exactly what I called the channel when I made the channel. This is also where I can select the channel off my pool. Remember, I had a pool of channels for this zone. So the pool of channels that I've got for this zone will be available for selection here. Okay. This is where I'm going to select the contact. Because I only put one contact into the contact pool, I can't drop it down and select a new one. If I go back into my zone pool, or sorry, my contact pool, and I add a second contact, okay, to that contact list. Contacts, demos. So if I add a second contact into my pool, and I come back into my channel, I will be able to select that contact. Okay, so there's the second contact I've just added into the pool. Let's go back to contact 1. There's my RX group list. This is where I was saying to you, if you wanted this user to be able to monitor the second talk group, once again, this is where you're going to add it. So if you're going to add him and you want to give him access to a second RX group list, give it to him. So my RX talk group list 2, okay, I can stick it in. You'll notice now my RX talk group 1 is locked. I can't remove it from here. It's locked because I'm using it. So it won't allow you to remove a talk group or a feature set in the pool as long as it's being used. Once you see the little lock button, you see the padlock in the corner, it means that it's being used. It will not allow you to remove it. So if I went into my RX group list here now and I selected RX group list 2, this radio will now receive its talk group 1 as well as its talk group 2. We don't have an emergency, so the emergency is off. We didn't set up an emergency. The radio's also got the ability to do encryption. Okay, so if you go and have a look under your utilities, pools, you will see encryption pool. This is where you can add encryption pools. So if I added an encryption into this basic, alright, and I can do either a random key set or I can say I want to put in a key set here. So let's say it's key 1. I can then use that basic key set, alright, as my first encryption. If I now went into my encryption, it should let me take that basic key set 1 and add the encryption. This encryption is compatible with other conventional digital basic encryptions on the DMR market. Let's make that none for now at the moment. So take it out. Delete encryption. Okay. Now we wanted to add a second channel here. So let's add the second channel, and our second channel is going to be the analog channel. So our analog test 1. Analog test 1. You see here you got no RX contact or TX contact, no RX group, and your emergency system on, and it won't allow you to select encryption. However, the information that you put into that channel is visible from the screen. Okay, so we have successfully created a new zone. We have activated the zone, in other words the radio will be able to see it. Okay, and if we close that screen now, that is the radio we are looking at. Okay, so that is the saved, or not saved because I haven't saved it yet. That is the current radio that we've been working on. It will always be on the top left hand side of your screen. If I'm going to save this fleet, I can save this fleet now as whatever I want to do it with. So let's say demo fleet 1. Okay, and it will save. It's going to save it into the standard location that's set up, and it will go into all of the same fleets at this point in time within the project or within the software. You can move that and change that. You don't have to do that. Now, we want to write that code plug to the radio. So once again, you need to connect your USB cable back into the radio. Once you connect the USB radio cable back into the radio, your read-write screen pops up again and you get your radio back. However, you will notice that you only have a read configuration screen highlighted. Why? You have not selected a radio to write the configuration back to this unit with. If I select a radio in the list to write this configuration, and the list will only show you radios that are available in the top left hand side of the screen, you will notice now that I get a write configuration window comes up. Once you get that write configuration window, the information that is in this screen here is exactly what you are going to write into this radio. Okay, and you will notice that the information that I've got in my white screen here is identical to the information I've got in the top left hand blue. That is the information that I'm going to be writing into this radio. Okay, and if I now click on write configuration, it will write that to the radio. Successfully done. Once again, you will notice that you lose connectivity to the radio once you've written it. Close that screen, disconnect your USB port, and your radio will reboot. Now, if you go and have a look back into this radio, and you go and have a look at your button layout, you will notice now that on your radio, this button is active. Why? I have got more than one zone in the radio. So when I now push that extreme left button, I go into my zone and I can select the zone that I want, and then I must push the extreme right hand button to select that zone. Now you are into the zone that you have just programmed into this radio. Okay, and depending on what screen you have allowed the radio to show is to what it will display on the radio. So that is your basic UI, that is my simple UI, and this is the advanced UI. I'm using the advanced UI because I've got a digital channel and I'd like to know what talk group I'm talking out on. Okay, from here you can also set up what your other buttons can or can't do. So you've got your orange button on the top, you've got your upper side button, which is your blue button. You can change whatever you want. Now in the Motorola's, folks, you can set your emergency as a long press. Unfortunately, this doesn't give me a short press to can it on the orange button. So I have set up a short press, sorry, a long press on my blue button to turn the emergency off. Okay. Your lower side button is the second gray button on the side of the radio. You can set any of those. The only other buttons that you can program at this point in time are your up navigation key and your down navigation key. Those are those two buttons there. Your left and right navigation keys at this point in time have got no functionality available on them at all. Okay. This is the contact list in the radio, and you can see in the contact list which zones have got which contacts in them. Okay, so I can add contact lists for those zones. Once those contact lists go into those zones, this is what will be available for you to see as contacts on the radio. So once you go into the contacts of the radio, you can actually select one of those contacts and do an individual call. Alright guys, and that's a basic quick overview of the programming. The more you play with it, the more you'll get to understand it. Once again, if you have any questions on the programming of this radio, you need assistance, please call either myself or Matthew and we will help you through this. Please remember to keep watching our YouTube channel and we'll keep posting more informative videos as we go. Thank you and have a wonderful day.